Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Metal Gear Speedrunners, Metal Gear Marathon T, Tactical Espionage Affiliation. That was an incredible run by Jaguar King, and during the course of that run, we actually got up to 71 subs, I believe. So we have all the bonus incentives and so on completely unlocked. Not bad for one run. We're going to go over to Casino Coin now with Silent Hill for the room. So I'll take us over to the stream now, hopefully.
Okay,
And welcome, Casino Coin.
thank you for having me. All right, so this is Silent Hill 4. Not quite, not quite a Metal Gear game, but uh, you do try to avoid enemies in a sort of similar manner by sneaking past, at least in some areas, anyway. So I'm going to be playing on easy, which is the typical difficulty for the any percent. I'm joined by commentator Oh My Queen.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so yeah, why don't I just get started here? If you'd like to explain stuff after I start.
Yeah, of course. You
Okay.
go on ahead.
All right, so I'll count down. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. And as we get inside the game, there's something that it's already looking quite different from the other Silent Hill games in general, and that we will be in first person for a little bit over here. This is Emery's apartment, our living place, as you can see, very clean and, not messy at all. Uh, but there was our little bit of tech movement over here. Which is very different from the later on parts in the game, because when you are in the apartment, you actually move way faster if you're strafing. Now, that's a little bit hard for Casino in this case, because he's playing on PS2 version, so he's using a controller. But with mouse and keyboard on the PC version is way faster and smoother, but he's very good at it nonetheless. So as you can see, he got through it quite fast. The main difference, as you will notice, the main difference from the PC version and the PS2 version is, of course, the loading times. The PS2 version one is quite slower for obvious reasons, but there will be a couple of different techniques, let's say, a little bit more ahead in the run, and I will talk about them when the time comes, let's say.
I'm also
So,
uh,
yeah.
just to say I am playing off hard drive, which is cloud for this run. Which does improve the load times, but it is still significantly slower than PC. But if you're playing off of disk, it's about 10 minutes slower load times. But because this is ranked by IGT, it doesn't matter.
Precisely. Most of the Silent Hill games are actually ranked by IGT because the game's IGT is actually pretty good. The IGT runs usually only when everything is happening except, forced cutscenes and stuff like that. In this regard, Silent Hill 4 is slightly different because cutscenes can increase your IGT. So you won't notice them. That's the entire point. You won't notice even the cutscenes starting because Couchman will be always looking for audio cues as to when to skip them at the precise moment so that there's no seconds wasted. And this is our first meet for tonight. Cynthia. She's a very good-looking girl, as you can see, and she certainly makes some offers to our handsome Henry. But we don't care about her, and we're gonna leave her alone in a scary subway full of sniffers that want to kill us all. And we're gonna go back to the apartment. So the main way that you travel through this game is by going through holes. Um, there's a hole that opens up in your apartment. You travel through it the first time, and you end up in the subway somehow. We're gonna pick up the gun here. This is the main weapon that we will use throughout the game. We're gonna take a little peek at our neighbor, because that is absolutely normal, and then we're gonna go back to pick up a phone call from Cynthia, which is complaining about the fact that we left her all alone in the subway, and she has a point for sure. But basically, what is there to speak about these holes is that the first time that you go through one of them, you will actually be forced to, let's say, walk through the entire length of the hole, and instead, every other time, like here right now, you can just get a cutscene and skip it. So you don't have to actually go through the hole every time. However, the first time that you do, it's actually more efficient to tap the movement button at the exact same time where Harry takes a break, let's say, from sliding forward, than just keeping it pressed. It's way more efficient that way.
Bad luck on those dogs. Normally,
There's
in
gonna
that hallway, you will not get hit by the dogs at all, but if they are RNG facing you when you come out of the door, they'll hit you a few times, which is unfortunate. Nothing serious, but many of the enemy positions in this game, enemies generally spawn in the same spots, but their behavior once they spawned is completely random, so you never know what's going to happen.
Definitely the biggest RNG of this game is enemies and boss fights in general as a whole. There's also the dogs, the sniffers, they're called sniffers, are one example. They can lunge at you, they can not lunge at you. It depends how they feel about it. Hummers are also quite annoying. We will see them, quite a lot of them later on. And we will see pretty soon another very annoying type of enemy that fortunately, I mean, we meet only in the subway because they are very, very annoying. But here we're going, we're taking a stroll with Cynthia following in the back. She's very good at following us, on the contrary from other characters in the game that we will see later on. But we've also had our first few encounters with ghosts, which is another type of enemy that cannot be killed. This is also something new, let's say, for Silent Hill games. You usually can kill pretty much anything. That's not possible with ghosts. There is one way to kind of get rid of them and subdue them. That is something that Casino is going to be doing later on, as it's needed for the run. But it's a very limited method, and we will talk about it a little bit better later. But here, Casino went to pick up some bullets that we will keep for the entire run, as we will need them for later. Generally speaking, we don't kill anything really, aside from very few exceptions. So the bullets will be mostly saved for way later on in the game. See, as you can see, this dog really wanted to get Casino for a moment there. But he's dodging him masterfully.
Worst part of the game right here.
Yes, this is definitely the worst part of the game. So this is the type of enemy that I was talking about. These are wallmen. They're literally called wallmen, and they do not want you to get through. So unfortunately, the way they spawn and they attack is random. Sometimes they spawn immediately and they attack once, other times twice. It's even possible that they attack 3 times, and hopefully Casino won't get hit, but if you do get hit by one of these, you're gonna be sent flying down the escalator at the speed of light. And it's not good, both because it's a time loss and both because they do quite some damage. But Casino pulled it off brilliantly. There you go, all of them dodged. Doing a
Okay,
little bit
so
of...
something to note about those guys is
Yeah.
that where they spawn is fixed, and there is a fixed amount of them. I can't remember how many. I think it's 12. But yeah, their behavior is again random, and they like to swing a lot.
Thankfully, we have that pause buffer going that kind of helps us redirect and stop at the right time to avoid them. So we haven't seen that, but basically what we just did is we picked up a placard called the Temptation Placard, and we've seen Cynthia's death. the story of this game is a little bit it's straightforward but also pretty lengthy to explain. And unfortunately in the speedrun we don't get to see any of it. But I do suggest, especially if you are a horror game lover, I do suggest to play this game yourself, especially now that it's a little bit more available to the public. And these are the famous, or the infamous rather, hummers. Their behavior is quite random, like most of the enemies in this game, and Casino is gonna be trying his best to not get hit by them. But unfortunately, they're not always nice.
Jasper. Next victim we get to meet.
Jasper Gain or Jane. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, if I have to be
I
honest.
believe extended materials say it's Gain.
Gain? All right. Yeah, I would have never guessed that, to be honest. Another few sniffers. Those sniffers can be quite a pain. If you don't get through to them easily. But basically, we're gonna be seeing new characters for every zone more or less, and all of them are gonna eventually die. So don't get your hopes up. Everyone is gonna die eventually. Spoilers, but they are relevant to the plot, and we will know about it a little bit more later. And now, what Casino is doing, he's going to pick up a shovel. This is the first meeting with, let's say, the main bad guy of the
I get the
story.
shovel from Jasper.
Yes.
He's very, very thirsty. And I just happen to have some delicious chocolate milk.
Some chalky milk. Give to Jasper. Who wouldn't trade a shovel for some chocolate milk? And what we're gonna do with the shovel is we're gonna go back in the forest once again and pick up a key, a very special key. The very first time that I played this game, of course, from a casual perspective in blind, this quite puzzled me, I have to be honest. Because once you pick up the key, if you try to go back where you need to use the key, which is back at the orphanage in the middle of the forest, it's not gonna work. There's gonna be some kind of wind pushing you back and preventing you from moving further. And if you don't know what you're supposed to do, it might be a little bit confusing, especially because the game kind of tells you this only once. But what you have to do is you have to go back to the apartment through the hole that is right here behind where Casino got the key. And then you have to leave the key down in the chest that you have back at home. This Silent Hill game is very different from the others in the sense that you have limited inventory slots. So in the run, you also have to pay attention to your inventory management. But due to this, the game also uses this whole chest deposit / deposit and inventory management to his advantage to do a couple of puzzles through the game, let's say. And this is one of them. Excuse me. So we're gonna be going back. Casino left down everything except the subway tokens and the placard that we got before. So we are doing, this is like our first inventory cleanup. He left down the pipe. The pipe is the first melee weapon that you get in the game. We're not gonna use it during the run at all. But it could be useful in a blind run, let's say. Only thing to keep in mind is that melee weapons in this game can actually break. Not all of them, but most of them can. So, if you ever happen to play this game casually, maybe that's something to keep in mind. And we have left down also the gun and the bullets because we don't really need them for the moment. But we're gonna be going back to the apartment again and pick up the key so that we can enter the orphanage, which is called Wish House. And as a little bit of background lore for everyone, the first time that Wish House was mentioned was actually in Silent Hill 3. When you are in the hospital, if I'm not wrong, you can find an article written by a certain Joseph Schreiber, which is also is also a character in this game, that talks about the Wish House orphanage and how there's some suspicious stuff going on in the orphanage, and about how kids are not really treated properly. I mean, we're talking about an horror game, so as you guys can imagine, nothing is what it seems. And this would be the other cutscene where we see Gaines, I guess, death. I have a whole new world opened for this pronunciation, and he ends up being burned alive. But we got another placard for it, the Source placard, so everything is good. Our progress is unhindered, which is all that matters. And up next, we're gonna be in the water prison. This is quite the peculiar area, in my opinion. I don't think there's any similar map in the other Silent Hill games. And it can be a little bit confusing when you happen here the first time. So it's sort of like it's shaped like a lighthouse, but this is actually a prison repurposed as a place where to keep kids. It's very complicated, but
Okay, well, it was originally a water tower,
yeah,
then it was repurposed as a prison,
yes, that's
and at the
correct.
same time it was being used as a prison, they also moved children from the Wish House to the water prison to punish them. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, you're entirely correct. To punish them and to also spy on them. Right now, Casino picked up a key, and we're gonna see a little bit the inner parts of this place. And once we get to the actual rooms, I'm gonna be able to explain why this place was also a place where kids were being punished. But here we are right at the top. As you can see, part of the water tower is still there. And we're gonna have to activate the entire mechanism that allows this place to rotate. I don't know how you create a place like this, engineerically speaking, but it's quite fascinating, in my opinion. So Casino's gonna be jumping through a series of halls right now. These are the rooms. As you can see, they very much look like prison rooms, and they're not pleasant at all. But oh, that's the creepiest monster in the entire game, I'm telling you. I hate those.
Twin
Um,
victims.
sorry?
Twin victims, that's the
Yes,
name of
the
them,
twin
yeah.
victims are by far the worst. So here, Scazino is trying to turn around the water tower rings so that it can get a different pattern with the holes and go through to a different place. There is a way here on PC to skip the entire animation after you try to turn, but that's not possible on PlayStation. All Casino can do in this case is to try and speed up the fade out a little bit by spamming the item use button.
It's actually
And
quite a
since,
bit faster
yeah,
to do that. Like when you cancel the fade outs, it can be up to around 10 to 15 seconds faster, just skipping the fade outs.
while on the PC version, you skip literally everything, fade outs, animation, everything is skipped. But unfortunately, it's not possible on PlayStation. But we're gonna go back up again, drop down another few sets of holes, which if some people are familiar with the series, you probably are getting some strong Silent Hill 2 vibes from this whole situation. But see, another example of the twin victims and a little bit of extra lore. Apparently, the twin victims are. Um, oh, I forgot their names actually. But they are victims from Walter, which is the main antagonists of this game, Billy and Miriam Locane. Those are their names. And they have been killed a long time ago by Walter. You also find an article in Silent Hill 2, an obligatory article as well. You have to pick it up, where it tells you of this Walter Sullivan that killed these 2 kids with an axe. The twin victims are the 2 kids. Walter Sullivan turns out to be the protagonist of this game. I cannot say if it was intentional from Team Silent to turn Walter Sullivan into a bigger thing that it was at the beginning, but it certainly worked out.
Oh yeah, you can see these enemies you'll meet later. Well, I guess you only got to see one of them there, but if you look up when you're running down this alley, you can see them jumping across the rooftops. The gum heads, which
The
one
gum
of them
heads.
brought down right here.
Which they look very scary, and they can be, but luckily enough, they're very easy to dodge in the speedrun. As you can see, that one just dropped down, and Casino just flawlessly went about his way. So here we're gonna see something different. This is a ghost, but it's pinned down. And this is where the game kind of tells us that there is one way to sort of block ghosts from doing their thing, and that is with a sword of obedience. What you want to do is you have to knock down the ghost. The easiest way would be by using silver bullets, which are, however, very limited in the game. And then you need to use one of these sword of obedience to pin them down. Issue is there's only 5 sword of obedience in the entire game. This is the only one that we find directly on our way, and we will need it. So, of course, Casino picked it up immediately.
There is one in the subway too, but it's the reason why we don't pick that one up is because it makes our menuing, like our inventory management, really bad. So this one is just easier for inventory management purposes.
Yeah, and inventory management is very important once again. And a bit also finicky to navigate if you want to move stuff around and so on. So it's definitely better if you pick stuff in a certain order, for sure. I'm sorry. That the comment in chat made me smile. If my parents had a sort of obedience, I think I would have been in less trouble. But yeah, this is we're almost kind of halfway through the building world. This is where we will get our last placard, I think. No, our last placard. And this is also where we will meet our last victim, Richard Braintree, which it's probably the only victim that I don't really feel bad about, because he's a bit of a scumbag. Oh,
Hey, come on, I like
um,
Richard. He's got a
you
nice
like
tie.
Richard?
A
Okay.
really nice tie.
Well, he
Man's
dressed
got good
smart.
taste
I'll
in
give you
clothes.
that. I'll give you that. As you can see, Casino had to go through some toadstools, which are those mushrooms-like enemy popping out from the floor. Ideally, if you're very lucky and you take the right path, you're gonna get hit once. But as you see, we've got hit twice, but that's completely fine. That's in the norm, let's say. If you're very unlucky, you can also end up getting hit 3 times, so nothing to be too concerned about. Braintree Ghost is super creepy indeed, and he's also the only one that can teleport around. He's probably the worst ghost out of all of them, and the scariest one to deal with casually. But from a speedrun point of view, it's gonna be very easy, and we're gonna see it a little bit
If
later.
I can get this frame perfect trick here. Probably won't get it. Oh, I got it! I got it! Okay, that's frame perfect. Normally when that scream plays, you're frozen in place and it changes the camera to look up. But if you hit use item on an item that you can't use on the frame that the scream is supposed to play, you can move during the scream. And you can actually like go up the stairs while the stream is playing, which you're not supposed to be able to do. It saves about 5 seconds, but it's really cool to
Hypes in
get
the
it.
chat for the frame perfect trick. This is a very long staircase, by the way. Like, there's so much else going on, unfortunately. It's just really long and tedious.
We've reached the
We
top.
will. Sorry?
We've reached the top. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, no, that's fine. I was just saying that we are gonna get the last placard right now. The Chaos placard. I guess, right. This is the Metal Gear channel, so I guess we also would have the right song to play while going up the staircase. And this is the start of South Ashfield Heights, which is actually the apartments where Henry is living. So I kind of skimmed through that at the beginning, but the way the story begins is that one day Henry wakes up and he's stuck in his room. He cannot get out of it. The windows are sealed. The door is barred by chains, as you might have seen it before when we glanced at it very quickly. But he has absolutely no way of getting out of the flat. And that persists for a few days until he kind of enters some kind of limbo state where he doesn't even hunger or thirst anymore. And at some point, bam, a hole in his bathroom wall appears. And thinking that it might be some sort of exit, it decides to go in it. As we've seen, it's not really because he ends up in the subway. So not really a solution, but the reason why he's stuck in there is because there's this whole situation where Walter Sullivan, the antagonist of the game, um, was abandoned as a child by his true parents. And oh, this is actually a trick that I would like to talk about. If you see, there's a lot of slugs on the floor. And normally, when walking on them, if you try to interact with something, you would stomp on them. So the way to avoid that is you have to basically click the ready weapon and the use button at the same time. And if timed perfectly, like Casino did, you will be able to interact with the fridge without stomping on the slugs, which is the best possible outcome because stomping on the slugs will lose time.
There's
But he
actually
did
a
it perfect.
little, very, very small time save there, where if you get hit by the slug, just as just as you pick up the red piece of paper from the fridge, it'll cancel your like get up animation, which is like half a second faster. Very minor, but that's like what most of the time saves are in this game.
Yeah, at this point, yes. This game is very optimized. We have a lot of great runners working on it tirelessly. The most competitive version, I would say, is PC because it's faster to run, but PS2 is as good, honestly. Whatever version you guys prefer to run, it's perfectly fine. Some drinks are a little bit different, but overall, they're both great. Fun fact, we have seen a grown-up Walter Sullivan standing on the stairs at some point, and we just kind of passed really fast by him. You can actually speak to him, and he will offer you something. He will try to give you a shabby doll. So you can decide whether to accept it or not, but if you will accept it, you will get a permanent haunting on top of your chest in the apartment. Hauntings are poltergeists that can occur in your apartment. There are several of them. There's rattling windows, TVs turning on its own. One that was driving me crazy as a kid was the dead cat in the fridge. I wanted to see that at any cost for some reason. I was a very weird kid. Um, But yeah, whenever you approach them, you're gonna be losing health. The apartment is most of the time your safe haven. You can go back to it and you will replenish your health, but that will stop happening more or less during the second part of the game, and you won't recover health any longer. And when hunting start to get a little bit too much, you actually start losing it because whenever you go inside the flat, if you get too
I don't
close
know
to
if
one
you
of them,
just because we're coming to the worst
yeah,
RNG segment. I don't know if you want to explain the hospital.
yes. So we are in the hospital because we want to help Eileen. Eileen was beat almost to death from Walter, and we have to search for her. So we have this wonderful corridor populated by wheelchairs that work on their own, because why not? And there's 13 doors, right? From
I
on
believe it's
each side.
11 on each side.
11. Sorry, 11 on each side, and we have to find a key and the room where Eileen is. Unfortunately, both of these two rooms are RNG. So the best possible option would be, of course, that the first two doors on left and right side would have respectively Key and Eileen's room, but it's not going that well right now. Um,
Nope.
but they
Trash
could
hospital,
also,
like normal.
yeah, they could also be on the same side. I've seen that happening. So
Oh,
you can have both Key and Eileen room on the same side. The biggest issue here is obviously the wheelchairs. Casually speaking, I've been knocked down by those wheelchairs, I don't know how many times. But thankfully, Casino know what he's doing, so he's
oh,
just.
there's the key. It's like what? I think that was R8.
It
No,
was definitely on the right side,
R8
but I admit I lost
and
count.
6. R6, R8. Which is
It could have
pretty
been worse.
poor.
I guess it could have been worse. And now we get to the best part in the game, the escort part of the game, that everyone loves. So, do you guys remember how at the beginning I said that Cynthia is very good at following us? That's not the case for Eileen. You're
Mhm.
gonna be seeing Casino doing this a lot of times, which means him ramming his head against walls. And that's not because he's alt tabbed or anything, he's just waiting for Eileen to catch up. You have to make sure that Eileen is in a certain range before going into a room, or she will not follow you. Um,
Mm.
that is true for most cases. In some cases, we don't want her to follow us. So we will just try to leave her behind by bonking into her and such, and pushing her away when possible. But yeah, in most of the cases, we just have to wait for her, unfortunately.
Now I am using a little bit of a safety thing. I picked up the axe in Building World. Um, I am only going to use it for maybe one room here, because there's one room in this hospital on the way out can be a little bit dangerous. It's a long staircase with some of those uh, patient type enemies in it.
Yeah.
This is the only place in the run I actually use the axe, but and I actually may not even need it depending on how good the long staircase goes here.
Yeah, usually people risk it, but it can be very bad. These tall patients can corner Eileen quite easily and cause problems, as she won't be able to follow as easily,
This ain't
unfortunately.
working out. Oh yeah, and they have a great sound effect for when you hit
Yeah.
them.
The burpers. I there was somebody that always called them the burpers for some reason. Well, we know the reason, but and there's also a lot of people that believe those are nurses because in Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3 you do have nurses in the hospital. But it is more easy to believe that they are patients, both because their name is patients and because in one of the cutscenes at the beginning in the hospital,
If you want
you
to have a
see.
really good time, try knocking one of them down while they're on the stairs. Every time they fall down one step, they burp again. It's quite something.
Yeah. They are funny enemies, at least. They're not as scary as the other ones, I would say.
Interestingly enough, on the only thing that they did aside from the obvious damage increase on hard mode is I think they tripled the movement speed, so they can be a little more threatening on higher difficulties.
I actually never played this game on hard, so you are giving me new information here.
Well, 10.2 star world record holder on PS2 anyway.
Oh, okay. Where are we
That's
getting
very
a 10-star
competitive.
run? So we're back to the subway once again. Um, and whenever we will come back to one of these areas, because we will be going through all of them eventually once again, a new ghost will appear, which is the one related to that area specifically. So once Casino goes back, we will have a small cutscene that we will unfortunately skip, but where we will see the appearance of Cynthia's ghost. Cynthia's ghost.
Did you
Um,
did you look into the guaranteed healthy Eileen strat? Or do you know about that one, or should I explain
I
it?
I know that there is a strat to do that, but I am not 100% sure how it works. I know only the granted old way to do it, which is not a speedrun one, of course.
Okay, so how you do this trick? Eileen's health is very important. We want her to be very healthy because it prevents her from getting possession events, which stop her from moving. So how you do this here to guarantee her health after this segment, you want to edge as close as you can here to the transition, like demon noise. And as soon as you hear the demon noise, which is the sound of a ghost spawning, you exit to the next area. That sound means that Cynthia has moved and is briefly despawned. And while she's despawned, you leave the area so that the game thinks there's no enemies in the area with Eileen when you left her there. Then she doesn't lose health, and her health is very important.
That is actually fascinating, I have to say. I knew that there was one strat, but I never really understood what it was exactly. So like Casino said, Cynthia can, sorry, not Cynthia, Eileen can lose health throughout the run, or even casually, of course. And every once in a while, she's just gonna stop and talk about rituals and kids and whatever, babbling around. And normally, you would have to heal her, and the only way in the game to heal her would be to use holy candles. And you have to light a candle, leave it on the floor, and then next to her, and then wait for the candle to burn out. That it's not efficient at all, of course, from a speedrun perspective. So it's very nice that there's this workaround, let's say, this strat that allows us to do it way faster and keep her safer. So
Unfortunately, actually,
yeah,
uh, so it does heal her to use a holy candle. Unfortunately, it's actually not permanent. You'd think it would be, but it's not permanent. So she will actually regain whatever damage she had if you just wait around. Uh, so using holy candles is in fact, unfortunately, not uh, useful to heal her. Even casually, if you just take too long, she's gonna revert back to the same amount of health. I did some
yeah.
testing around that.
Usually when I was using holy candles in my casual scrub runs, I was always using them right before the last boss fight. It was like, I have to save Eileen. I have to get the best ending. So, and we're
Well,
gonna go
it turns
down.
out you're actually better than you thought you were, because although it is said that there is a way to raise her health before the final boss, um, from testing that I've done, it turns out that doesn't actually raise her health for the final health check. So it turns out you were actually better at the game than you thought you were, because her health
Yay.
was good enough. or you were good enough in the final boss that you actually managed to save her without actually regaining her health.
I honestly thought that was always the easiest way to do it, because it made no sense for me to heal her through the way there, because there's so many enemies in this game, especially in the second part, and Eileen is not good at following you around, so I didn't want to waste time with that. Um,
Yes,
but
most of
we
the things
got we
around
got
Eileen's
a
health in this
sorry?
game are just a mess, a complete mess.
Yeah. So we got a subway card finally. We don't need the tokens anymore. And this was another. We kind of skipped through that really fast while we were talking about Eileen and her condition. Um, but this was another example of a puzzle that needs you to go back to the apartment. You get a dirty coin, and you have to go to the apartment and wash it in the apartment sink. That's also um, not immediate when you are playing this game blindly, for sure. At least in my opinion. And this is the murder scene where Cynthia was killed. We haven't seen it the first time around because we skipped the cutscene, but as you can see, there was quite a lot of blood in there. And just as a small explanation, maybe you have noticed that on the back of Eileen there's some numbers. That's because she is one of the victims, together with Henry and Cynthia and Guyn and Richard and everyone else. She is one of the victims that are supposed to be part of Walter's ritual,
Yeah.
the 21 sacraments. And he's doing all of that because he believes for some reason that room 302 is his mom. And yeah, like how do you argue with that, you know? Oof, this escalator is being not nice at all. But you guys can see how aggressive the wallmen are and how they flung you around when they don't like you too much. A little bit of a tight call with Cynthia over here. She kind of looks like the kid from The Ring, you know, just floating around with a long hair. That's the other sort of obedience right there in the corner.
Yes. You skip that one for inventory management.
Mm-hmm. And here there's actually Walter trying to shoot at you, but we're just gonna ignore him and get out of here as fast as possible. One thing that you can notice over here as well in these long staircases is that Casino is always keeping his left kind of running against the wall because that's the only way to make sure that Eileen is with you at all time. And if you get too far away from her, especially while she's injured or semi-injured, I think she has higher chances of starting to speak, and you don't want that to happen, absolutely, because that
While
means
on
you
the
have to.
staircase is what happens is when you get too far away from her, uh, the curve of the staircase basically acts as a wall that she bumps into, and she has to sidestep, which is extremely
Yeah.
slow. Um, for possession events, I'm not sure if proximity is a factor. Although if she has one on the stairs, it's really bad because it's just
Yeah.
a complete waste of time.
And you have to go back, like, if you don't want her to speak, so you have to go back and bump into her so she stops. She has like a little gasp moment and she starts to follow you
Mm,
back.
Bumping into her actually doesn't stop her, unfortunately. Although,
I've seen that happening, but I may be wrong. Like, you are the runner, of course, so you
although
are
what you
an
can do
expert.
to stop her from talking for long periods is if it's not a severe possession event, which you can tell the difference between severe and regular possession events, in that one has her just talking, and severe ones have her with a ghost aura around her. If it's not a severe possession event, you can actually whack her with a weapon, and that will knock her out of it. If you bump into her, she might stumble, but she actually won't stop talking, which is really annoying.
We're back in the
There's Walter.
forest here, by the way. Walter is here with a magnum and a chainsaw. Like he's all up in there. He's ready to go to war. This man. We're picking up the silver bullet that we will need later on in the next level, actually, if I'm not wrong. And we're just going around collecting mannequin parts, which are mostly into these wells. And to see into the wells, you need the torch. So basically, every once in a while, Casino will have to kind of refresh the torch. So he's able to look into the wells and pick up the items that he needs for this. Kind of interesting. This is a part in the game where you can gain a little bit more of information about the story behind it, the story behind Wish House and Walter and whatnot. Actually, by taking Eileen with you, because there are some rocks spread through the forest which are written in a language that Henry doesn't understand, but Eileen does. So if you just take her around with you, she will read the stones for you, and you will know a little bit more about the story. Of course, that it's not needed in the speedrun, but it's interesting nonetheless.
It's actually much safer to leave Eileen. Her health value, if you leave a room that she's in and she doesn't follow you, and that room has enemies, her health value will decrease every time you step into a new room without her. But if you leave her in an area that has no enemies, every time you step into a new room without her, she'll heal 1 hit point. This is not super exciting, but leaving her in the Wish House area is a very good way to recover a little bit of her health because you go through so many rooms without her. And right after Subway, where she may have gotten hit by wallmen on the escalator, it's a very good time to recover a little bit of her health.
And let's be honest, it also makes your life way easier to not have her around with you and, having to be mindful of her position and such.
Definitely.
Let's leave Eileen behind whenever we can. That's the motto of this speedrun.
Interesting position.
Ghosts are very aggressive usually, and most of the times you can actually lose health even if they are too close to you. And they can also grab you. They can literally grab you and keep you in place for a while, which is very annoying. I I don't think that happens often, if at all, in the speedrun because it's quite easy to avoid them if you're just passing through real fast, but they're annoying nonetheless. That was Jasper, by the way, the one in flame. As said before, he died burned alive, so of course his ghost is also in flames.
Unfortunately, you cannot light the torch on Jasper. Very unfortunate.
It would have been fun to see you running around being like, Jasper, come here, please. I have to light my torch on you. So Casino is going over here to pick up the last 2 items of this area. The Pickaxe of Despair, which is technically the strongest melee weapon in the game, but it's also very slow. And the Crested Medallion, which we will need to actually get out of the area. And we
By the
have,
way,
yeah.
Almost all options, like when the menu comes up with yes, no, almost all options in this game default to no first. So if you mash, you'll accidentally cancel. Almost all of them. The one exception that I can remember or know about right now is the torches, where it defaults to yes. So when you want to light a torch, it will default to yes. But otherwise, usually defaults to no, which can make trying to do things fast kind of awkward sometimes.
Look at that beautiful inventory management. Everything perfectly in its place. The right amount of slots. It's a satisfying run. Satisfying run.
So you have just enough open inventory spaces to get through Forest 2 without having to put a piece of the mannequin on and then go get another one.
Yeah.
Like you can do it all in one go if you manage your items correctly. That's why we don't pick up the Sword of Obedience before we go to Forest 2, because we then wouldn't have enough space.
It's very tight for Forest to the inventory management. So yes, it is very important that you don't have anything extra in there. And so we're back into the water prison. Everyone's favorite place. Fun fact that it's not really a fun fact, but the holes that we saw before were actually for corpses disposal. And the way the water prison rooms work is that they can rotate, but from inside the area where Casino was turning
Yeah.
the
Wait, wait, wait.
actual.
Just real quick,
Oh yeah.
magic trick. All right, no Walter. Poof. There he is. Walter
Oh
doesn't
wow,
spawn while the camera
he's a
is looking
magician.
at the door, but as soon as you look away, he spawns in this room.
So you actually have a very good power against Walter. You don't need to defeat the final boss fight if he doesn't spawn.
If only.
If only it was that easy. Run over at water prison too.
Damn.
So we're defeating a little bit of Hummers here because we have to wait for Eileen anyway to come with us. So we are basically clearing the path for her because she cannot go up and down ladders. So what Casino did here, he went down the ladder to kind of precede Eileen while she was going down the spiral staircase and just, get rid of the Hummers for her. We have to wait for her anyway, so killing enemies here doesn't really waste time.
I did waste a little bit of time because she caught up. Wow, where did that one go? Anyway, yeah, I did waste a little time because she caught up, but it's not too big of a time loss. We're gonna ditch her here.
This is one of those examples where you bump into her so that you make sure that she doesn't follow you. And now we're free. No more Eileen for now. Unfortunately, not forever, but
Hey, I like Eileen. If I didn't, I
you
wouldn't be
are
playing this.
the only
I
Silent
wouldn't
Hill
have
Forerunner I know that
grinded
likes
this game
Eileen.
as much as I did.
Oh, geez. That twin victim really wanted you. That was very aggressive.
Oh, they'll get even
Um,
more aggressive at the end of this
yeah.
area.
Honestly, they terrify me. I cannot look at them. Like, I'm fine with every other enemy, even in other Silent Hill games, but the twin victims are like, ugh. So we've picked up the prisoner t-shirt, and this is yet again another example of we have to go back to the apartment. Because the t-shirt is dirty, so we have to do a little bit of chores. Henry is a master at keeping everything clean, as we've already seen. So we'll just head back for a moment and clean the shirt back in the tub later.
What am I doing? Give me a second to remember how to play the game.
No problem. It happens to me too, sometimes. But yeah, the rooms of the prison are actually made in a way so that you can torture and get rid of people very easily without even having to actually enter. And the guy supervisioning the entire water prison and the kids in it was Andrew DeSalvo. Um, he was hired specifically to take care of these kids. Um, but multiple times through the game, you understand that he was actually abusing them, mistreating them. He caused the death and disappearance of many of these kids. And apparently, if I remember correctly, there's even like some kind of file where it hints that he might have given some leeches to Walter, like water with leeches to Walter, which is like, no, thank you. But here we take a little bit of revenge against him. This is his ghost. He died before. 1 silver bullet, and bam, Sword of Obedience through the heart, and we pin him down so we can get the key to progress with the game. That's the only ghost that you are obliged to down at any cost, because you do need the key to progress. And that's why we also take the Sword of Obedience before, and we go through the pain of actually downing a ghost. You can down them even with normal bullets, and I believe even with melee weapons, but as you can see, they kind of float around, and it's very hard to hit them with anything that is not ranged, and normal bullets would require way more shots.
Yes.
So
And Andrew in particular, if you shoot him with a normal bullet, he actually goes bouncing around the room like a ping pong ball. So don't do that. You have to kill him. You can actually use holy candles or use a melee weapon, but do not shoot him with regular bullets. It's a terrible idea.
worst room in the game. Let's go.
Here we go.
This is like, this was my nightmare, you know? A room full of twin victims waiting to grab me. So here, Casino is trying to get the perfect path to kind of like group them and make sure that Eileen gets through unharmed.
Not bad.
And that was perfect. There is like, it's very hard to pull off, but you can hit them all if you shoot with the gun. If they are aligned in a specific way, but that's way too hard to pull off, and this is way easier for the speedrun purpose for sure. But you know, you might want to have fun, you know, trying to group them up and shoot them all at the same time. Could be a fun afternoon activity. Oh, there she goes.
Unfortunate.
Daddy.
If it was a longer one, I would have shot her to get her to stop, but that one's actually pretty short, so it's not too bad. Richard.
And this is Richard's ghost, which is probably the worst one, but as you can see, we can just dodge him quite easily, actually. And that's the only time I think that we meet him one-on-one.
If you
So
wait around long enough in his apartment, in the last apartment section, he will actually show up.
Here we
in
bonk
his own
Eileen
apartment.
once
He
more.
haunts his own apartment.
Well, yeah, of course. I would do that too, you know. Judge everyone that comes in. Like, what are you doing to my wallpaper? And Toadstools not being nice once again, but we got through. We're pretty much going the same way as we did before.
Do you want to explain this is a major skip? Right here? A building world skip?
No, you can explain this one.
Okay, so we leave Eileen behind a fence. This fenced-in area is actually connected to that long alleyway that I ran through. These wheelchairs. Okay,
These are the worst.
So that area is connected, but Eileen is behind a fence. However, when you are in the next room, but the rooms aren't connected by a door, they're connected by just like a transition. Eileen will just clip through the fence, and so you can skip a whole puzzle that you would have normally needed to do, because you can just get Eileen to clip through the fence. And I'm not sure if I was fast enough here. Okay. Just like right there, I got her to clip through the fence. But it's a different sort of clip. but you skip
Yeah,
about
because she
half
was
of
close
building
enough to
world by
you,
doing
right?
that. This is actually a strategy for this room that only I do, as far as I know. But these Hummers can be pretty annoying. So I shoot 6 bullets at them to stop them from bothering Eileen. Doesn't really lose me any time. You can just keep running. But every time they hit her on these stairs, I think you lose about 1 second. So ideally, you want to try and mitigate these. Other runners, I don't think, do this, but you don't lose any time for doing it. So why not?
Oh, 2 with 1 shot. Nice. That room that we passed before with the wheelchairs can actually be quite harmful because I've seen a couple of runs die to that room because Eileen can get stuck in the wheelchairs and she will refuse to move, which means that the game effectively soft locks because you have to get through with her. And if she's too far away or if she gets stuck somewhere, then you cannot carry
Bad
on,
boss
unfortunately.
here.
Oh yes, this has been the bane of this run for quite some time. This is one truth. So
Actually got
there's
perfect luck though.
yeah. um so basically this is a series of paintings, let's call them that way, or wallmen if you prefer, that just go up and down and the boss fight is over. But I will explain it. I'm sorry, I'm not fast enough. Basically they just drop down and then go up, drop down and then go up, but only one of them is the real one. So, what you do in the run is you try to align yourself as best as possible so that you can hit one entire line of paintings, so to speak, in order to figure out which one is the real one. If you hit them and all of them get the shot, let's say, do the animation of getting injured, then it means that you got the right one. There used to be the previous strat was pretty much the same, only the alignment that was being used would not allow you to hit the entire row. So you would have to, if you were particularly unlucky, you would have to change your position 4 or 5 times to actually get through the fight, and that would lose, of course, a lot of time. But with a new strat discovered by Andy, you can actually align your camera better so that you hit all of the paintings in one side. And in this case, Casino was actually pretty lucky because he got it immediately. So he just had to focus down that line to actually kill the boss. This run is infamous, let's say, amongst the Silent Hill runs because it's the one with the heaviest RNG. Both for boss fights, and the enemy behavior and stuff like that. But I have to say that Casino's doing very well, and luck is a little bit on his side, aside from that hospital, I guess.
Yeah, actually, that was I've had some pretty good luck this run. It's not it hasn't been too bad. Hospital was bad, but hospital is always bad, so no worries there.
This is our apartment, let's say, in another version of our apartment. And Eileen is with us for the first time. We will be going back to South Hashfield Heights actually right now, which is a series of apartment where we live. And we will be just going around for quite a while, just let's say talking, interacting with some corpses hanging around.
Oh yes,
And
West the
each
Run.
corp will get
Evil
rid of one
looking.
lock on the door of the superintendents that we can get through and pick up what we need to progress. That was Walter, by the way. We have a secret room in our apartment that we don't know the existence of, and there's Walter corpse in there, literally hanging around. If you examine him, Henry will actually comment on how bad the smell is, and I can kind of understand him, especially since Walter has been dead for quite a while, which is also supposed to be the big twist of the game, because the game doesn't really tell you in an obvious way for the first part of it, but And Walter actually killed himself as another victim needed for the 21 sacraments. So the second part of the apartments is actually a little bit confusing casually because you go around a different path from before. You have to cut through several apartments, and you have to go around finding these hanging corpses and stuff. And if you don't know where they are, it's gonna take some time, unfortunately. But you also get a little bit more lore. There's a lot of lore in this level of the game, a lot of things that help you understand a little bit more about the story. You end up going in many flats with many different characters, and you know a little bit more about those as well. There's also an interesting one which we passed before where there's some paintings in there, and that's basically the flat of a guy that spends his time spying on other people, and he just makes paintings out of them and out of their habits and what they do and whatnot. But yeah, as you can see, he's just tagging the bodies, getting a sort of mini dialogue. Basically, the dialogue is telling you what happened pretty much when Walter was born and his parents abandoning him. These enemies are also very similar to the twin heads, but a little bit less aggressive as far as I know.
Oh yeah, Konami to Team Silent after they finish the game.
Hurry up. Get packed. Hurry up. Get packed.
Oh yeah, I guess we could also talk about that. This is the last official game that Team Silent created back in the days. There are other Silent Hill games, of course, but they were developed by different studios, and mostly of them Western. So no more in-house creations, let's say. And here we pick up something that every Bloodborne fan will rejoice at. It's an umbilical cord. So now we're ready to go fight the moon presence. And if you guys haven't played Bloodborne, you should go play Bloodborne. After the marathon, not during. Gotta stick around for the marathon. And we're approaching the end of the game here. You might wonder why the superintendent had the umbilical cord. The reason is actually very simple. Walter was abandoned in the flat in room 302 by his parents. And when the superintendent found out, Sunderland, he decided to take him in for a short moment, just to help him get to the orphanage, to Wish House. And he found himself with the umbilical cord from the hospital. The game explains that in detail as well. You find some documents that tell you everything, but I don't want to spoil too much because a lot of this game beauty stands in reading these files and understanding way more about the lore and about each and every character. It's very interesting. And we're going through the final boss fight. And we will soon discover a new skill that Harry has adapted over the years and that we knew nothing about.
Henry's greatest skill.
So far. So we're gonna use the umbilical cord on the boss. And we're gonna be going around picking up the spears. And as you can see, Henry is so good at skating. Look at him go. Oh man, I still can get behind this animation, to be honest. But it's basically what Casino is doing is you're supposed to pick up these spears and use them on the boss to make Walter vulnerable, let's say. And normally you would have to go through an entire animation where he takes the spear and then he kind of shakes a little and blah blah blah. But what Casino is doing is using the you can't use this here text box to skip the animation and causing that kind of skating movement that Harry does, but that allows him to get to move before the animation ends.
Interesting.
Oh, that's bad luck.
Okay.
That's bad luck. Ooh. That's very rare to happen. But as you can see, Walter is like superhuman at this point. He's like skedaddling around. Look at that. He's so aggressive. He's not happy. And you know, when the camera shifts and you guys see Eileen, basically Eileen is simply possessed at this point. She's running towards some kind of killer machine to complete the ritual and whatnot. You can save her if you're fast enough and if she's not injured, but we won't most likely. So what Casino here? What Casino is doing here is charging up pickaxe attack, spin to win, and let's see if he's gonna be lucky enough to get the least hits possible.
Not lucky.
So normally, the best ideal way of killing Walter in this case would be 2 charged attacks with the pickaxe and 4.
Time. Sorry, I probably should have
Okay,
been a little more active
You
on
good?
that.
I'm on it. I'm on it. I got it.
So yeah, 4 regular pickaxe attack, 2 charged pickaxe. However, in this case, we were a little bit unlucky and we got a little bit less damage than intended. And Walter needed a few more bullets to be convinced to finally die. But overall, great run by Casino.
What was my time?
109.58.
Okay.
Well below estimate. Well below estimate.
It's not too bad. It's about 2 minutes slower than my PB, which is not bad.
For a marathon run, it's perfect if you ask me. Perfectly fine. So I believe we're gonna get the 21 Sacraments ending, right? Or no?
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry, what was that?
No, I was trying to figure out which ending we were getting because I think Eileen didn't die.
Oh yeah, this is the mother ending where Eileen survives,
Okay.
but your apartment is still cursed.
Yeah. Because usually Eileen doesn't survive, so most of the times you get the 21 Sacraments ending where literally everyone dies and the room remains haunted and Walter is happy with his mother room. But instead we got the mother ending, like Casino said. Eileen survives, but you go back to your flat and it's still fully haunted and not very pleasant to live in. But we're stuck in it.
But look at Henry. The man has gone through a tough adventure, and his shirt is spotless.
He must have one of those magic shirts that whenever something gets on them, it just kind of washes away on its own. There is a perfect ending. The perfect ending would be
The
you
escape
have
ending.
to. Sorry.
It's called the escape ending.
Yeah, you have to basically to obtain it. You have to make sure that Eileen survives, and you also have to cleanse at least 80% of the hauntings in your apartment, which of course we don't do in the run. So it's basically impossible to get that ending. But basically, they both survive, and they both decide to move from South Ashfield Heights to somewhere a little bit more favorable.
For some reason, in this ending, despite Henry's apartment still being Omega cursed, Eileen decides it's a good idea to move back right next to the super cursed apartment. Not entirely sure why that is, but
I think because she's maybe still a little bit possessed. Maybe.
perhaps.
They're both kind of possessed. But yeah, this is the state of the flat. I think it's fine, It's acceptable.
Well, the credits, after the credits, it'll give me my IGT on the results screen. If we can hang around for that. But yeah, I'd like to thank MGSR, for having me. And thank my commentator, Oh My Queen, for providing fantastic commentary throughout this run. Really
Thank you very much
appreciate
for
that.
having me. Both from Casino and, of course, Metal Gear Speedrunners community.
I believe I'm also scheduled for another run in a couple days. Ghost
Sunday,
Babel.
yeah.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Ghost Babel on Sunday. It's going to be a really good run as well.
I cannot
Hopefully.
commentate for that,
Anyway.
unfortunately.
Thanks very much, casinocoin. It was great having you. And yeah, the commentary was excellent as well. Coming up
Thank
next, we will have Makarov 360 running Splinter Cell Pandora tomorrow. But we are going to go to a short intermission unless there's anything else you guys want to say.
I'd just like to see my IGT and then I'll
No problem. Yeah,
just come
no
up with
worries.
the credits here.
Yeah,
There's
we
an
can
IG.
just try to convince the chat to play Silent Hill 4 in the meantime.
Well, there's
That's
an
my
IGT
role.
screen. There's an escort. There's a lot of climbing up and down stairs. It is a Metal Gear game.
Pretty much. It's even by Konami.
And Joe Romersa, best
Yes.
singer ever.
Despite what anyone may think, I think this game's great. I think it's fantastic. And, it's never been easier to get it with its release on Good Old Games. So I recommend anyone to go ahead and pick this game up and play through it and speed run it because excellent game. Actually, pretty fun speed run, I think. I promise Eileen isn't as bad as she might seem sometimes.
The only negative thing of the PC version is the fact that it has less hauntings than the PS1. For some reason, they remove some hauntings from the PC version, but those exist in the PS2 version. So maybe you have this game lying around somewhere, forgotten in a closet. It's time to pull out your old PS2, and go for it.
All right, let's see what the IGT is here. $51.38. Okay, not bad. Not bad.
Not bad.
GG.
So, yes, 51.38.
Claps
I
in the
tell
chat
you right
for-
now, PC version easy. Anyone can get this time if you practice a lot. But yes, anyway, not a bad time, especially for a marathon. It's pretty good. But yeah, so thanks for having me, and yeah, I guess just feel free to go to intermission.
Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the marathon.
See you all extremely soon.